Do you have an idea you think would make a great podcast? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let us explain. It's free.
There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so you can do it virtually anywhere.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
You can actually make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, unlike so many other websites.
It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Now let's get back to our show.
Who was he? Diabolical genius, deceptive, manipulative.
He's also a former social worker and a political campaign activist.
Some people in town say the base is run by aliens working with our federal government to conduct mind control and genetic experiments.
I'm leaving. I'm glad. Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Eerie Americas, and this is your host, Kristi Hull.
And this is Vicky Ayala.
I hope everyone's being safe out there. I hope everyone is obeying your country's or city's laws and rules regarding everything going on. And that's all I'm going to say about it right now.
Yes, we promised. Everybody's been doing it. Everybody's anxious. So we're going to distract you with other stuff. The fact that I'm so cabin feverish that I started saying hello and good night to my bamboo plant because I feel like it's helping it grow.
Or the fact that I took my desk and I started to sand it out of boredom because I was tired of the color of it. And now I'm starting a project where I'm literally sanding with my bare hands the entire desk, which is like an old 1980s Ethan Allen dark mahogany wood. So my fingers feel like chalk at corners. Like I feel bad touching my cat and my husband because they're like all grimy and gross. I went on my Instagram and I posted and I was like, should I sand it and not recolor it or color it? Everyone said color it. So I'm like, great. Not only am I going to be sanding, I'm going to be coloring and painting and polyurethaning and a ton of other things that for someone like me that gets cabin fever, this is what I end up doing. I end up renovating my entire home. So it's
going to happen because I'm already thinking of all the ways I can rearrange my furniture.
Yeah.
Because now that I'm home so much, I'm like, you know what? This doesn't work. I don't like the way this is. It's too much. So now this weekend, I'm definitely going to rearrange my furniture. I've already started cleaning like 14 separate things in my apartment instead of just focusing on one just because I'm like getting sick of everything too quickly.
I organized my kitchen pantry. Never in my life would I have found the opportunity to ever do that unless I was under like confinement. That is literally the only time that's ever going to happen. So it worked out. I have to look at it from the positive aspects. And that's what I think we should all be doing, you know, like, and not just that. I have caught up with more people this week than I have in the last year of my life. Mind you, I have moved away half a year ago and 90% of these people I have not heard from and I've caught up with them because you just are home and you're like, hey, that's funny. Let me direct message you or let me text you or let me call you. So it's been great catching up with.
Yeah, I've been on the phone a lot because as we all know, my mother is ill and right now like it's not really safe to go see her. So we've been FaceTiming. And it's been weird because I don't really FaceTime with anyone. I don't really speak on the phone with anyone. And it's been cool because right now there's limitations if we do visit that there's like one person allowed at the same time. And I have two siblings. So it's the only way all of us can speak to my mom at the same time. So it's been very like cool and like pleasant. And, you know, we all get to talk and we all get to catch up rather than us having to send each other separate messages like, hey, what did you do today? Hey, what did you do today? Like we've been able to talk to my mom. But there was a funny story today. We were on FaceTime with her. So my mom's on a lot of pain medication. So I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, what did you eat for lunch? And she's like, I went bowling. And I'm like, oh my God, my mom is high.
I went bowling. And I love that in her head she was bowling. Like, of all things, that's an amazing
That's what I'm saying.
Like a pro bowler. So
my mom's not, I don't think we ever went bowling in my childhood. So I'm like, out of all things for you to respond, you said I went bowling. And like, it was just so funny because we all looked at each other and we're like, oh my God, our mom is high. And my mom, you have to understand, my mom is not a drinker. She doesn't take anything. My mom's one of those people that like Tylenol. Like, that's it. So she's very like, I don't drink. I don't take pain medication.
Thing that ever went through your mom's kidneys were like Ovaltine. Like,
right. Like my mom's not that type of person. And so the fact that she's like, this pill's making me loopy. And I'm like, no shit, my mom is high. And it was like the best thing ever. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy my mom is high. But then like we had to cut the conversation short because she was falling asleep. Like she's so loopy that like we were talking about like shows we're binging on. I'm like, oh hey, what is everybody binging on? Because I gave my mom my Fire Stick so she could watch other things than whatever the hospital had. And so she's been watching like tons of shit. And I remember that all of us were making fun of her a couple weeks ago because she was like watching The Twilight Zone. And we're like, how many times are you going to watch the same shit over and over again? And she's like, oh my God, I haven't watched The Twilight Zone. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, woman? And she's like, I didn't watch it. I haven't watched that in years. I'm like, Mom, all three of us have spent time in with you watching the episodes. And so we're like, oh my God, we want some of these pain meds because they're making you forget like an entire week's worth of what you watched on TV.
Man, I would love to forget the last week of my life.
I think everybody would love to forget the last week of their life.
I was at Trader Joe's, and at this point, there's got to be some stuff that, the supermarket has stashed up on. So we're on a line like we're going into a club because they're limiting the amount of people that can go in at one time, one item per whatever. Oh, I'm totally fine with these rules. I have no problem with
Me too. Everybody deserves to get everything.
I get to the front of the register and I'm talking to the guy, and, so I'm chit-chatting with him for a second, talking about the day, how crazy everything is, usual conversation these days. And he goes, do you want your receipt for these memories? And no one has ever as a cashier said that to me. So I looked right at him and I said, trust me, bro. I was like, there's not a minute of the next few weeks of my life that I think I'm ever going to forget. I don't need the receipt for the memories. But it was such a funny way to phrase it because I'm like, I guess because, there's like a VIP line to get into the supermarket. It is history. Like maybe some people do want to keep their receipts for this kind of stuff.
I don't want to keep anything that's going to remind me of anything.
I would love to take whatever your mom's having. I'll take a double. How about that? Another thing, too, that I'm kind of proud of myself about is I've been picking up the Stephen King novel, which...
Yeah, I've been reading, too. Which one? The Institute?
Yeah, the one you got me.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, I've been reading it, too.
Yeah, so for Christmas, Vicky sent me The Institute. We're both trying to read it. It starts slow like a lot of his books.
It does, but it does pick up.
Oh, yeah.
It does start to pick up.
I'm trying to get past that beginning when you kind of start. I always look at like I sometimes read certain books as when you're on a treadmill. Like at first, that first peak is kind of hard, and then you get over it. And I'm trying to get to the peak through the Institute, and then
I think of it as like when you start a brand new like not movie, but like when you start a brand new show, and it's like the first couple of episodes, you're like ugh, and because they're just like introducing everybody and developing the character, like that's what it is. But like once you get over that, you're like, oh, that's why they
definitely
focused on something that I thought was so stupid and unimportant.
Exactly. So I'm trying to read, and then my brother-in-law, who never calls me because they're all the way in London, so our hours difference, and plus he's just not a phone guy. We even spoke, and he started telling me about this book series he's reading, and so he's going to send it to me. So I'm trying to read a little more. And last but not least, in my confinement, I have found myself picking up my guitar that I got since age of 18, and I've picked it up for about a month every year of my life except the last few years. So now I've picked that up again. So I learned 2 chords again this week, which takes forever. So that's the upside to it. So just try to find some stuff to kind of lighten the mood, to figure things out. My friends and I later today we're doing a Netflix party.
We are after we record, we have a date with our friends to do Netflix party. We're gonna try to figure it out.
Let me get into my new favorite website that I've been.
You always find the best ones.
This is yourghoststories.com by Welcome to My Freaky Freak Show.
That's awesome.
The title is Childhood Entities.
Ooh.
Seems like a lot of like experiences as children, and we're no different, and I guess neither is Welcome to My Freaky Freak Show, who is located in North Carolina. I've had my paranormal type experiences as far back as I can remember. As a baby, until about 7 years old, I lived in / right beside an old haunted house. The house was built sometime in the 1800s. Me, my mom, my dad, and my brother lived in the house for a few of those 7 years, and the remaining time we lived in a mobile home right directly beside it within 100 feet. There was something happening every night, whether it was lights turning on or off, to hearing someone walking up down the stairs of the house very loudly, to seeing an apparition. Like I said, it's always something. I wish I had a camera or recorder back then. I would have gotten something on it, I'm sure. Even people outside of the house would know it was haunted. We lived in the country, but our nearest neighbors would go by and later ask my mom or dad, you got that electric fixed in that house? And they'd say, no, why? And the neighbors would be like, well, when we rode past, it looked like there was lights on upstairs. The crazy part, there was nothing but the old wires hanging down. No place to even put a light bulb.
So that's not just not having electricity. That's not even having anywhere to put electricity.
Yeah, so something has enough electromagnetic force where people are seeing it as a light from the outside of the house. That's pretty strong. There's two occasions that really shook me. The first one was one day, me and a female cousin of mine were playing and we ran from her brother into the old house. When we got there, there's this board we had you could put across the door as a way to lock it. So that's what we did. So I guess one of those like old
Right.
school wooden boards is locks. Once we did that, we looked up to the stairs and there's a man wearing a red shirt with blue pants and you could see right through him. Me and my cousin looked at each other like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? We screamed as we tried to remove the board from across the door, and once the door opened, we flew past her brother and he was like, what the fuck? So we told him, and even though he had seen things around there as well, he shrugged it off as if we were crazy. The second time I was scared out of my mind. It was only me, my mom, and the same female cousin in the mobile home beside the old house. And my mom was cooking in the kitchen. Me and my cousin were in my brother's room watching Baywatch. LOL. Dated. My cousin gets up to go to the kitchen for something to drink, so I was alone in the room and creeped out. I always felt like I was being watched, so I decided to go in there with them. I go to walk out the bedroom door, and there's this urge to stop and look to my left. And oh my god, I felt frozen from a fear at what I saw. It was only a head/face peeping out of the bathroom door with piercing black eyes staring at me. What I felt like was in my soul. It almost appeared to be an old Native American man, maybe woman. It didn't speak, just stared. I was so scared and on edge by the paranormal and non-paranormal going on. I'm not sure if it was a good or bad presence. However, I do feel as though it follows wherever I go. I say that not only because I feel it. One time, I was at the same female cousin I was with the night. I had seen it years later. I was taking pictures, and when I had the film developed, there was a picture someone took of me, and I don't like having pictures taken of me, so I had my hand in front of my face, and between my fingers, it looked like the same face I had
Oh
seen
no.
years
Mm-mm.
earlier, only it was a bluish color instead. After I seen that face that day, it was a long time before I seen another apparition full on. I'd see figures of a solid black man out of the corner of my eye to turn and nothing be there. Anyone can believe what they want, but for me, I know there is more out there than just this physical world as well. There is so much that we aren't taught or were taught wrong, even if the ones that taught us had the best intentions. Anywho, that's all for now, folks.
Okay, so my husband still has to work because he's an essential employee because he works for MTA. So I'm home by myself. And I thought that, one of the things I would do during this quarantine was like, you know what, let me not have all the lights on. So I don't have a lot of lights on and I'm by myself and I don't even want to go where, like, the hallway where my bathroom is because it's dark and I feel like I'm going to have eyes peering at me. So I think I'm just not going to pee for the rest of the night until he comes home. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. Thank you. You and freaky person.
My freaky freak show.
Your freaky freak show.
Her, not me.
Well, you read it. You didn't have to read it. So scared.
But I found it super interesting too that he had mentioned or she mentioned, I'm not really sure, that they don't like taking photos of themselves because a lot of paranormal
they manifest in like orbs and stuff during pictures.
And they manifest in these really obsolete ways. So to think that it was between his fingers or her fingers is really fucking creepy.
And to think that like it's still with them, like they feel it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like we experienced things as children, and as we got older, and maybe we didn't experience it as like I don't experience things as much. I feel things sometimes when I'm in certain places, which is why I I don't really like going to other people's houses sometimes because I'm like I feel something in here, and I'm not going to ask you because it's weird. But I stopped seeing a lot of things when I got older, and I stopped feeling a lot of those things. So I think it's like interesting when it follows you because it's like what like I know we're more open as children, and I'm like what as an adult has made me less open to the experiences I had as a child, but what makes other people still have those experiences as an adult.
Right. And my thing is I guess that for me, this is kind of where my nerdy paranormal, like years of watching these shows and reading this stuff, I guess that's the major difference between a haunting and a possession. How do you become possessed by something?
A haunting's just an event. A possession's like with you.
Haunting's a location. Like if you go to a certain spot, that thing
it like stays there.
Stay there. But when it attaches to you, like what about you makes that particular entity can possess you?
And like why would it possess me and not like you? And so it's interesting that
absolutely.
I wouldn't want my picture taken, and I would also stop hanging out with that cousin just because it happened twice around them.
Probably go to like a shaman or something if I feel like it's
I would.
a Native American thing. I'm just saying, if you're listening,
right? Maybe you should find out. Maybe there's a reason why.
Check it out. That's all I'm saying.
One of the things we've done in this, lockdown is watch. I've been trying not to watch TV while I'm working from home because I'm lucky enough where I get to work from home, but Some of the things that I've been saying I'm going to watch forever, I've actually watched it. I'm not going to spoil the name of the show because if I tell you the name of the show and you haven't watched it, it's going to be like a very big spoiler. But it's a show that I've been watching on HBO that I've been meaning to watch. But I'm one of those people that got super spoiled by Netflix and binging that now when they have shows that come out once a week, I don't watch it until the whole season is out because I don't want to wait. I would rather wait the 10 weeks and just watch all the episodes at once. So now that the show's over, I've been watching it.
See, for me, I'm the reverse now. I used to want to be like that, but now that I know it's always on my hand, like I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. I look forward to it every Sunday
I can't. I don't have the patience anymore.
because that's one of the few shows that I have to wait once a week for. The rest of the time, like,
Right.
you know, like I can see everything. So I used to want to be the reverse. Now I like that I have to wait now. So sometimes
The only show I feel that way about is I am so upset that I haven't been able to watch Schitt's Creek as it's happening, that I have to wait until it comes on Netflix and then watch the whole season because I'm dying. And I keep accidentally, because I follow them on Instagram, I keep accidentally
can't.
watching some of their stuff and I'm like, shit, that's a spoiler.
for that reason, because I can't. Like,
I
can't.
stop watching it. Like
I can't.
I take the sound off and I scroll right
Yeah.
past it because they've been doing this thing where after each episode they like have a little meeting about it. And I'm like, oh my, one thing already got spoiled for me. And so like I got super upset. But I've been watching, you know, basically everything I said I'm going to watch, which one of the things I've already refinished is Schitt's Creek, which if you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's really funny. And if you don't like it, then I'm telling you, I texted our mutual best friend Jocelyn the other day, and I told her that I was thinking of divorcing my husband because I've tried 3 times to get him to watch Schitt's Creek, and he still doesn't find it funny. And I'm just like, you're making me question my marriage.
My husband hates it too. And I'm like, listen, like we can't talk about this because this is going to be a rocky.
Because I'm tired of convincing him why it's funny, and I'm like, how do you not find this funny? Like, how do you not find more of funny? But anyway, so I was watching a show on HBO. If you guys really don't know what it is, after this episode comes out, just DM us and I'll tell you what it is. But it inspired me to write this episode because I found it really interesting. And it's something that I've always kind of been interested in. And it's doppelgangers. And one of the reasons I've always been interested in is because I know that everybody has one. And I know that I have one because there's a friend that I have that still lives in one of my old neighborhoods that tells me that he sees a girl that looks exactly like me all the time. And he said the only reason he knows it's not me is because that one is friendly. And I'm not. He's like, if I went up to her, I went up to her once and I thought it was you. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she was like, so nice to me. She's like, all right, this definitely isn't Vicky. But I've always been interested in doppelgangers and it's weird. There's somebody else out there not related to you that just looks like you. Like, I don't know why nobody would find that like interesting, scary, weird.
I've always been curious about it.
Like I kind of want to meet them, but then I'm like, maybe we shouldn't.
Well, like, what if I gain 20 pounds? Are you gaining 20 pounds?
Right, like,
Are we losing weight at the same time?
When I dye my hair, do you dye your hair? Like, I was blonde. Were you blonde
How does
too?
it work? Are we mirroring each other? Or do
Right,
we just
do we just
happen to
look alike? Or do we
I
have
think
same
about the
personalities?
logistics. I'm such a nerd. I wouldn't be freaked out. The logistics would be the
I
thing
would
that
sit
would
there and
like,
question her, like,
I would
okay,
wanna know.
what is your favorite TV show? What is your favorite this and that? Because I want to know, do we just have similar looks or do we have, like, similar personalities?
Yeah, right.
You know, it also depends on what you think a doppelganger is. So if you look up a doppelganger, you get all these different definitions. It comes from a German word that literally means double goer. But, you know, you could look it up and it's just, you know, someone that looks like you, a non-related person that kind of looks like you, doubles of a living person, which is like, you know, the regular definition of it. But depending on what you believe, doppelgangers can be a whole wide range of things. They can be ghostly, it can be paranormal phenomena, it could be bad luck, it could be a bad omen, it could be a bunch of things. So depending on what you believe, you could think, all right, this is just a person that looks like me, or you can think it's a shadow person or like a ghostly twin that follows you around. It could bring you bad luck. It could mean that you're going to face a hardship soon. It could be an illness. It could be death. And in some traditions, it's actually a spirit or a demon that takes the form of a person. So is it a real person or is it just like this demon that can take the form of something else, kind of like what are they called? My God, I'm drawing a blank. What are they called when they can?
Skinwalkers?
No. This is going to bother me this whole episode. Something changers.
Ghosts that can take on, or like entities that can take on.
Yeah, like something that can take on the look of a human.
A mimic?
Yeah, but I don't know what I meant to say. When I figure it out, I'm just going to randomly say it in the middle of the episode. From reading like different things, the one thing that I can normally say is I don't think anybody thinks of doppelganger as good luck. It's usually seen as something that's bad luck.
Fucking scary.
Right. They usually say it's usually not a good idea to meet them. If anything else, it's like really scary for you, but normally it's not good to meet your doppelganger. But people have been having bizarre doppelganger experiences for really, really long time. And I was looking for these doppelganger experiences and I was like, oh, I wonder if it's anybody like recognized, anybody famous. And it was someone that I didn't expect, but then I also wasn't surprised. And this is the second time I've talked about this person on one of my episodes, and it is Abraham Lincoln.
Hmm. That's a damn tall doppelganger.
That is a tall ass doppelganger, tall and lanky. So, November 6th, 1860, Abraham Lincoln wins the presidential election. And right after he gets told that he was the president of the United States, he's doing, I guess, what we all would do if we're waiting to find out if we're going to become president, is he's chilling on his couch. Apparently, he's sitting on his couch, which is honestly where I've been sitting for like the last week, so I totally get it. He looks into a full-length mirror and sees himself standing there with two faces. One was him, and another one had like a really unhealthy, like death-like paleness look to it. So it's his face, but one is super, super pale. And he gets up and walks towards the mirror to kind of like confirm what he just saw. And the face disappears. And he's like, so I'm guessing like if it was me, I'd be like, all right, I was just freaking seeing things. And he goes, sits back down. And to his amazement, when he sits back down on his couch, the same two-headed reflection is looking at him in the mirror again. So then this is when he like gets really disturbed by it, tells his wife about the whole experience. A few days later, reflection of the head, it appears again. So now his wife starts to get freaked out. And she specifically thinks that this is a bad omen. And she thinks that she completely is like, I think I know what this means. She actually gets very specific. And she thinks that it means that he was going to be elected for a second term as president and not make it through it.
Wow.
She based that because she feel like she saw two heads and one of them was pale and looked dead. So that's just what she felt. Mind you, he just got elected for the first time. She's saying he's going to get elected a second time. He's not going to make it through it. And Lincoln apparently kept trying to make it appear, and it only appeared one more time. So, like, he kept doing the same thing, sitting on the couch and trying to see, and it only happened one more time, and then it never happened again. And as we all know, Lincoln died 1 month, or we should know, read a history book, Lincoln died 1 month into his second term as president. At first, I was like, did this really happen? It was actually written about, the whole experience is known because it was written in a book by someone named Noah Brooks, who claims that he heard it firsthand from Lincoln himself.
And we all know Abe was nothing but honest.
He was Honest Abe.
Honest Abe has a lot of weird paranormal shit
That's what I was thinking. After I saw it, because I mean, I wrote about him before and I was just like, okay, anybody can have an experience. But now seeing this too, it's like, dude, you were definitely special some way. You were open, maybe something happened in his childhood, but for this to happen to the same person, like that had another paranormal experience, is just kind of weird. And I feel like your whole presidency was a bad omen because, well, all the shit that we know about happened during his presidency. Who knows what happened in his childhood? But we know a whole lot of paranormal shit that happened once he became president. But his wife ended up being right because he died 1 month into when he got reelected as president in 1865.
Fucking crazy, bro. That's nuts.
The doppelgangers aren't just bad omens. One of the things that I got interested in by watching this show is that in the show, it's someone who they're trying to prove that someone didn't commit a crime and that their doppelganger did. I kind of became intrigued because I'm like, what if someone's doppelganger committed a crime? That's a valid question. I mean, if there's somebody else who looks like me, who's to say that that person's not doing shit and I'm going to get blamed for it if you happen to like live in the same area? Because it could crazy stuff happens and it can happen. The whole it wasn't me, it must have been someone who looks just like me has been my excuse since like I was born. But what if that was like a legit thing? What if it was someone who looks just like imagine?
You got the cop that is there the first 5 minutes of the job that might actually buy that one.
But I definitely did use it. I was like, it's not me. It was somebody who looks just like me. But what if that was for real? It actually was real. Yeah, so that excuse kind of seems like the plot out of a like really bad movie, but it actually did happen, and it actually was a plot of a movie. The next story I'm going to tell you actually ended up inspiring the Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Wrong Man. I mean, I've seen The Wrong Man. I didn't know it was based on a true story that happened in New York, in Queens. So on January 14th, 1953, a man named Manny Balestrero, he went, I guess back then they had like life insurance policy stores, like offices. Now it's not like that, so I'm learning a lot of things about 1953. But basically, his wife needed some dental work. He needed to borrow against her policy, which they definitely don't let you do now. He needed to borrow $325, which is about $3,000 in 2020, which sounds right for dental work. So he goes into the life insurance policy office to borrow $325 against his wife's insurance policy because she needs dental work. He suddenly gets taken away by these detectives, and he has no idea why. And it turns out that two people in that life insurance office identified him as a man who robbed them not only once, but robbed them twice of a total of $271, which back then was equivalent to like $2,600 now. So someone had robbed them twice, and they identified Manny as the man who had robbed them twice for that total amount of money. So he gets taken away and doesn't understand why, because he has no idea what these people are talking about. And then once he learns about the robberies, during one of the robberies, he's like, I was on vacation with my family. And during the other robbery, apparently he had like a swollen face for some reason. He's like, anybody would have seen it. That couldn't have been me. But, you know, the witnesses identified him. So after he gets arrested, his wife blames herself for his arrest, of course, because he went there to do something for her. And she has a nervous breakdown and gets admitted to a psychiatric facility.
Oh, damn.
So then he goes to trial because, again, they have no other evidence other than like eyewitness testimony because it's 1953. It's not like they do DNA. It's not like they have camera surveillance. So if two people say that's the man who robbed us, then they're going to go to trial. You're going to get arrested and go to trial. And it ends up in a mistrial because a juror apparently made, like, I got this from the article I read. It's a quote, made a remark presuming his guilt in open court. So he must have said something about Manny being guilty in open court, so it ended up in a mistrial. So then he has to wait for a second trial, all along saying the excuse of, it wasn't me, it was someone who looks like me. And I'm sure everybody's like, dude, just fucking fess up, because who would believe that? So while Manny is waiting for his second trial, a man named Charles James Daniel, who had an uncanny resemblance to Manny, was caught robbing a grocery store. And then once he gets arrested, actually ends up admitting to more than 40 robberies. Two of the robberies ended up being the one that Manny was arrested for. Manny finally gets freed. Rose gets discharged from the psychiatric facility, but according to like a lot of articles that I read in the movie, the Alfred Hitchcock movie, it stays true to the story, but it tells you that Rose recovers. She doesn't really ever recover. She's never the same again because she blames herself. Like, this ruined their lives, and she blames herself her whole life for this happening to him. So she recovers, but she never really is the same.
Right. Well, who would be after you have a freaking nervous breakdown?
So basically, Manny gets freed. Rose gets discharged from the psychiatric facility. They take their two sons and they move to Florida to start a new life. Manny ends up suing the city and the insurance company for $500,000, which now would be like almost $5 million. But ended up settling out of court for only $7,000, which is about $67,000 now. And then he sold the rights to Alfred Hitchcock for the movie of what happened for another $22,000, which is about $200,000, but stated that all that money ended up going to paying for Rose's hospitalization. Their son Gregory says that his mom suffered a great bit, that she was never really the same after that. And there's actually, I didn't know this, now that whenever I do get the hell out of my apartment, I think I'm going to go check this out to see if it's still there, because this happened in Queens, New York, which is not that far from us in Brooklyn. And there's a street that is supposedly co-named after him that's called Manny the Wrong Man Balestrero Way, and it's at 73rd Street and 41st Avenue in Jackson Heights, Queens, which is not far from the home they were living in at that time.
Wow, that's crazy. I actually know exactly where that is, but
You probably passed right by it, because I've been to Jackson Heights a million times.
I've never even known. Right. That's crazy. What a crazy
I can't believe that
story.
happened like right here and I didn't know about it.
But to be such a doppelganger where people are like, no, this is definitely him. Like, there's
and
no doubt
I will put up
about
pictures
it.
of the resemblance, and like, it's crazy because you can't even blame the people, because anybody would have mistaken them for the same person. I was just like, why would he then come in to do a legit transaction when he had robbed you twice? But I mean, that was just me in my head.
Don't get me wrong. You've seen like pictures of like Jack Black and
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, honestly, genetically, there's only so many different faces you can make. And then with photographs and history over time, sure, you're going to find people that look very similar or very uncanny. But to be in the same place at the same time
is crazy.
And look identical is unheard of. So that's pretty crazy.
Well, I have another story that's actually coming out of Brooklyn. So a lot of this shit happens in Brooklyn. So maybe our doppelgangers in Brooklyn, Kristi.
East Coast doppelgangers.
This is about a woman named Victoria Nasirova. And she was a 42-year-old Russian immigrant living in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, New York. And I literally wrote in my research, I'm like, why are these crazy doppelgangers hitting so close to home?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, she one day baked a cheesecake laced with a type of tranquilizer and brought it to the home of her doppelganger, which was a 35-year-old woman living in Queens. Her name has not been released. I looked at a million articles. They don't release her name to protect her.
Wait a minute. So she knew who she was?
She knew who her doppelganger was. She knew this other woman that looked just like her. And the woman was a 35-year-old woman living in Queens. So she lives in Brooklyn and her doppelganger lives in Queens. She's a Russian immigrant. So I'm like, you came from another country and you found your doppelganger in the next town over. So the articles all say they have no idea how she knew her, but she knew her. She bakes a cake that's laced with a tranquilizer and brings it to her. The woman eats the cake, passes out. She was found the next day dressed in lingerie with pills around her, and they think that it was to make her look like she overdosed. And after she goes to the hospital, returns back, she discovers that her passport, her employment authorization card, jewelry, and cash were all gone. So police believe that Victoria was trying to kill her doppelganger to assume her life. Don't know why. Maybe her life was really crappy and she
I was
thought...
going to say, maybe she just felt because this person must have been an American, they had like a more established life. Maybe it would just be easier to get rid of her and pursue her life.
Because, this plan sounds very thought out.
I always thought like it would be cool to run into someone that looks like me, but now it's just like, no, because like one of us is going to use each other for very bad intentions.
Right. So like, what if the other person that looks like you was like, you know what, there's someone who looks like me, I can do all this crap and just blame it on her. I just also think that if you were going to kill your doppelganger to assume her life, you should probably actually kill her. She didn't kill her. The woman
she
survived.
Just like completely drugged her.
Yeah, so in a statement by police, they said, quote, "This is a bizarre and twisted crime that could have resulted in the death of a Queens woman whose only fault was that she shared similar features with the defendant. Offering a gift of cheesecake, the defendant is alleged to have laced a dessert with a Russian drug and presented it to the unsuspecting victim."
I love how it's a Russian drug.
Well, they said that the type of tranquilizer that it was apparently is a tranquilizer used in Russia. So she brought that shit with her. So was she just like planning? She's like, I'm going to move to the United States. I'm going to find my doppelganger and I'm going to kill her. She was arrested in 2017. This just happened.
So wait a minute. Did she scour Facebook for the rest of her life, find this girl in Queens and move to Brooklyn with the intention of killing her? Or did she just say, oh, this is good tranquilizer, let me bring it to
Here's the kicker. So she gets arrested on March 20th. She was arrested March 20th, 2017, was facing a maximum of 25 years in prison. And it's also reported that she was wanted for the murder of a woman in Russia. And she was wanted for, quote unquote, preying on various men in New York City. So this woman did not come here with good intentions. She just happened to find her doppelganger. This is probably why, because she killed someone in Russia. She probably knew people were going to look for her. And maybe she thought people were going to look for her and find out what she did, or all these men that she was preying on were going to find out what she did. So she thought, I'll assume somebody else's identity. Don't want to meet my doppelganger anymore.
Love for the Russian community, but this is why you guys are always villains in our movies.
My whole thing is, why bring the tranquilizers from Russia?
Why?
What sense? Like when you were packing to leave your home and go to a whole new country, you were like, okay, let me make sure I bring my bra, my underwear, my clothes, and my tranquilizer.
My tranquilizer. It's too good to get rid of or leave. Like,
I must bring this.
So many questions.
So now you've heard about someone who got arrested for something their doppelganger did, someone who tried to kill their doppelganger, and now I'm going to tell you about a man named Richard Jones who actually served 17 years in prison for a crime committed by his doppelganger. Not only does this doppelganger, this is a little bit different, not only does he share his face, but they actually have the same first name.
Get the fuck out of
town. And live less than 10 miles apart from each other in Kansas City.
What the hell? Wow.
So in 1999, there was a robbery committed in a park in Kansas. Eyewitnesses placed a man named Richard Jones at the scene of the robbery, even though there were witnesses who placed him at a family party that he was celebrating Memorial Day and his girlfriend's birthday. This is very similar to the show that I was watching because they literally have proof of the people being in two places at once. So he was seen at this family party by all these people celebrating Memorial Day and his girlfriend's birthday, but then also placed at this park doing this robbery. There was no DNA. Mind you, this is in 1999. No DNA. His arrest and conviction relied solely on these eyewitnesses. To me, I would think that even if there was eyewitness testimony, if you have no other evidence and someone is saying they also saw him somewhere else, I feel like that shouldn't count. But he was arrested and convicted based solely on these people that saw him at the park.
Yeah, see, there's got to be more evidence, especially if there's already contradictory evidence.
Right. You've got to have something else tying him to this fucking robbery. Yep. So the whole time, of course, that he was in prison, he's maintaining that he's innocent. But a lot of people in prison maintain that they're innocent. So while he's in jail for 17 years, he actually starts getting told by other people in the prison, in jail, that there's another man that looks exactly like him that's in and out of the prison system. Once he learned that information, he actually contacted the Midwest Innocent Project and asked them to please help prove that he was innocent. Once the lawyers found out who this other man was and showed him a picture of the other man, he immediately was like, okay, now I get why the eyewitnesses placed me at this case.
So, wow, he even admitted that he can understand why.
The guy had such an uncanny resemblance down to the same hairstyle. They both had cornrows straight back in their hair. Same hairstyle, same face, same first name.
Wow. What are the fucking chances?
So what happens is the lawyers then showed pictures of the two men to two of the two eyewitnesses that placed them at the park, and the two eyewitnesses said they could not tell the pictures apart. A judge ordered that Richard Jones be freed at that point because obviously it wasn't so much that they thought he didn't commit the crime. They were like, well, if this had been presented as evidence and the witnesses couldn't tell them apart, he would have never been convicted. So they're still not even saying that he was innocent. They're just like, well, there's no way we can convict you when the two of you look alike because the other guy is also denying it, of course.
Right.
But the point was the witnesses couldn't tell you guys apart. There's no way they would have convicted you in 1999 had they seen this. So they freed him. But at that point, he had served 17 years in jail.
Yeah, there's no getting that time back, no matter what you do. That's always my whole thing. Yes, it's great that someone gets released, but 17 years, no amount of money is ever going to give you back.
She had children and they didn't get to see their father for 17. Like he didn't witness their lives for 17 years.
And you're under the assumption that you're guilty. Your kids know that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Your kids, they're thinking, yeah, my dad did this terrible thing. Wow.
Because again, they're not saying, hey, Richard Jones didn't commit this murder. It's just two people look alike and we can't tell who did it. So I'm sure there's still people that are like, well, your father still could have done that. Because telling someone, oh, a man that looks exactly like my father did this and then he got released from jail still doesn't sound right. So I'm sure that the ramifications of him spending 17 years in jail are not just like gone because he proved that someone looked like him. A quote from his lawyer said, quote, everybody has a doppelganger. Luckily, we found his. And to me, this story really kind of like got to me because I'm like, it's one thing to be like, oh, my doppelganger did something and, you know, it wasn't really me. But it's like this man literally spent 17 years in prison. That's a really long time to fucking be in the system when you know that you didn't do it.
That's a long time period.
That's a long time.
For doing something that you know you didn't do. Like, that's just, oh, man, those are the kind of things that just like.
So I don't want to meet my doppelganger.
Yeah, you can stay away wherever you are. Kiki, who looks like me. Get out of here.
Right, like, please, I don't even think the world needs another one of me.
Yeah, trust me.
I'm more than enough.
I'm enough.
Just one person, just one me.
Wow, those are some crazy ass stories. Wow, that's nuts. All right, let's get into who does that because I'm a little freaked out right now.
Yeah, between your story and mine, like, let's. I'm gonna walk into my freaking bathroom right now and see like 5 Vickies, and I'm just gonna freak out and call you.
Who does that? Who does that? Who does that? Who does that?
I found this one on ky3.com via upi.com just because it was a little too short, but it was so good. And it's a good who does that. It's a funny who does that, but it's also a good who does that.
Okay, good.
It's kind of reinvigorating for a time right now. So, woman gives birth in toilet paper aisle of Super Walmart. Actually happened today in Springfield, Missouri.
Was she trying to buy toilet paper in bulk?
I'm sure, but you notice these things always happen in the Midwest. How come you never hear about a woman giving birth at a Target in New York? Why is it always in the Midwest?
And why do they have an entire aisle just dedicated to toilet paper?
I mean, toiletries are big out, like even out here, like there's like a whole aisle for
here's like half an aisle
stuff. Yeah, like because there's so many options, but amid the empty shelves and store closures, a Springfield Walmart had its own commotion going Wednesday afternoon. A baby was born in the toilet paper aisle of the Walmart at Sunshine and West Bypass. One Walmart customer didn't have a chance to get any of the groceries she came for, but she left with something much more special. We were like, oh my gosh, this is actually going to happen, said store manager Jessica Hinkle. Hinkle said the woman warned store associates that her last child came in just 30 minutes.
What a lucky person to only have 30-minute long labors. Except for when you're in the middle of Walmart.
Everyone I know talks about like, oh, the labor wasn't that bad. It was 6 hours. Like, I'm like, what? Like, what's
yeah, like my friend's short labor was still 5 hours. Like that's short.
When the woman's water broke in the toilet paper aisle, she was prepared to go into labor right then and there. So I'm in my head thinking, this woman must be like 9.5 months pregnant. For you to be like, oh no, it's going to happen. And then you're at Walmart and you're like, oh, that's it.
It's happening.
It's going down. That's pretty crazy. Why didn't you just send your husband to get the damn toilet paper? That's my whole thing. Where's the baby daddy? That's my question. We were like, what do we do now? She said. Another lady comes around the corner and she says, quote, I'm a labor nurse. Can I help?
What are the odds that there's a freaking labor nurse while you, like, oh, come on.
And we said, yes, please.
Yes, please help me.
She had gloves in her pockets. And
because everybody's walking around with gloves now.
Hinkle said she grabbed a sheet and blocked the aisle to give the woman as much privacy as possible. Crowd control, not the best with blood, so that was my job, holding the sheet and crowd control, making sure that nobody invaded what privacy the poor lady still had, Hinkle said. Springfield firefighters rushed into the store and helped deliver the baby girl. They're the typical fire department that shops in our store, so they were pretty proud of themselves, Hinkle said. She said the entire process took about 45 minutes.
That's it?
And customers were cheering for the woman the whole time. They took out their gurney. There were customers, of course, gathered, and she kind of raised her hand. Everyone clapped for her, Hinkle said. The Walmart birth was a touch of happiness Hinkle said everyone needed. You know, a good moment. Everybody's going through so much, and with the baby, it's like everything comes full circle, she said. Hinkle said she did touch base with the woman Thursday. She said both mom and baby are doing well. It reminded me of that movie with Natalie Portman, where the number 5 is like the bad luck thing for her, and she gives birth in aisle 5. The Walmart. And not only that, too, I was like, it touched me because I'm like, that is kind of good news. But besides which, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm such a paranoid New Yorker. The Larry David came out of me immediately because I was thinking to myself, ew, of course she gave birth in the most populated aisle in the last few weeks. Like,
I was just thinking about if this happened in New York, people would just be like, can I please get the toilet paper?
And not just that, too. It's like, that was probably the most walked upon lane. That child, like, if they say, like, supposedly it's good to be born with good and bad bacteria, that kid is never going to get sick because she was born.
Oh, that kid's immune to everything.
A Walmart toilet paper aisle during the COVID crisis. That kid is going to live till she's 150 if that's the case, because
that kid's definitely immune to everything.
Of all aisles in Walmart, that aisle.
I mean, I guess it is good news. It's like, oh, baby born, but it's like I'm a typical New Yorker. We're the type of people that, like, if something happens on the train, we're like, couldn't have it happened at home? Like, I'm trying to get to work. So to me, it's like I can just picture a bunch of New Yorkers. They wouldn't have been like not clapping, not happy for her. They would have been like, seriously, now in the toilet paper aisle?
I'm telling you, people are used to giving birth in strange places there. I hear about it all the time.
The toilet paper aisle at a super Walmart, not a regular Walmart, a super Walmart.
I hope you guys enjoyed our episode. Please like, subscribe. Please leave us a review. We love hearing what you guys think. Check us out on social media. You know the whole spiel, but most important,
stay weird, Americas. Bye.
Peace.